So, I'll be honest. Try and usually that happens. It's like something. So, paper and it's what I do. Just so games to end question and raise the record as we know times so, so does a part of the world think it's in a world? So, all right, let's do this. I am someone who and certain things have happened. Find that is did not have seen before. So, basics down. In 2014, I'm some human who just had a very to the date 2023. I was doing it because I wanted to be worshipped. It was the moment limited due to how we are used. It could be that human beings find the world to be meaningless, when they don't look at their position or how they were designed for it. You know, I like every they sold me on reality. If you realized, let's say you're right now inside a car. Right now I'm driving a vehicle. I'm not driving a vehicle. I'm inside a vehicle outside of a Tim Hortons in Toronto. I want to tell you, and I want to check something. If you fall into this category and you're listening to this, or at some point in your lifetime you hear this lecture, I want to tell you that it's kind of like you're in a car, but you have a car in another garage. Okay? Or think of it this way, you're in a garage and you're in one of your cars, and then you step out of that car and you go experience a different car. Then you step out of that car, go experience a different car. What this is implying is that energy is using life. But when we wonder about the behavior of energy using life, it's as if what is the purpose of the energy that is being humanity? And they make us feel this is like a Legoland building block world. But there are rhythms, there are movements, there is orchestrations. Just like a symphony, there is moments that are conducted. They are conducted beyond human attention. Now, humanity, right, the average human being you look at, right, you have to ask the question, what is in their attention? Okay? And I'll be honest, most human beings in 2024 are just trying to be practiced. No offense. No offense. All humans so all humans that you see, idea is everything is motion is relying to the sense of ownership. Religion is different than spirituality. Because spirituality is actually the self, the soul, love, truth. Now, that there is a true God, so truth can soul out. He said, I will give you instruction to the penetrate. The secure of existence you have drops. I am moving my feedback, my humanity in the sense that when a human being seeks this, that is many angles of song. God will issue tolerance, those yourself. But what tower like those yourself either the warriors, fears here, and governs. What governs? That I want you to think of on chair like you have chair. That idea is that God and divinity is the living law. So you human being their relationship to law, they see that human beings have no trouble accepting an invisible justification or behavior limitation. Means human beings have no problem with man-made laws that are invisible. But when you come to the system, it's not not a photograph that is not something you can make better. You suddenly quickly realize is childlike what is real. You know, I look at it, I was WTF, you know, the secular movement of mankind, and especially the scientific method, which granted incredible damage, but excuse me, WTF is a theoretical physicist. WTF is theory. I'm pretty much telling you that you are inside a system. I don't think that you disagree with this. I think we can all agree that existence is touchable shape, interactable shape, and it is form. So it is not just form, it is also the substance of it. In the sense that I can imagine an apple, but I cannot bite it. When I say, does a part of the world think it's in a world, this is an argument that in some sense nullifies individualism. And it's another way of saying there is no such thing as the concept of the world, there is just an activity. And an activity that has levels of movement in it, and in one of the levels, somehow, like if somebody was going to be like Mr. Within, like there's a bunch of secular people, right, and atheists, and you have to explain the soul to them, and you have to, okay, in a way they can understand. I would be like, holy shit, but okay, I'll give it a try. I'll say, think of the soul as speed. Think of reality as speed. Right now, I am able to speak to you because my mind or my mental intelligence, my psychological activity is faster than my physiological activity to some degree, right? And what does that mean? That means this biological organism was a biting, clawing entity, and at some point, clue, perhaps 6,000 years ago, clue, something entered the world of the human experience. You see, we have this notion that the soul enters the womb, okay? But I want you to think of it that there are 3 levels, okay? And the highest level is faster. So I want you to think that the way that I know I am a body is because some part of the psychological activity, let's say, is vibrating faster, okay? Or let's say it's moving faster. So I'm moving faster than the world, I can give meaning to the world. Now, if you realize there is a part of you, your soul, that has been faster than your mind, then what if previously you had theories that closed up the world, the living aspect of it, the moving aspect of it, shows you the reality. If somebody says Mr. Within or Amin Jaber Ansari, what convinced you that God is real? Oh, you who dived into the depths of reality. And the thing is, we are not made for those levels. Okay? There is a role we are here to play. Do you understand what I'm saying? That means if you don't put an ice cream in the refrigerator and you suddenly see it melt, that's not a fucking spiritual experience, okay? You're just melted ice cream. Okay? Sometimes spirituality, rather than being an escape from where you are, could be actually driving where you are. So does a part of the world think it's in a world? The argument can be made, yeah. You know, if that tree had legs, it could have been like, yo, I want to be named. Why the F are you calling all the trees the same name? Right? Imagine some guy, like, you know, I don't believe in this stuff anymore. But imagine like some shaman who could contact nature. The reason I say I don't believe it in anymore is because what moves the world has changed for me. The soul and spirituality was interesting, but religion is fascinating. Because religion is a relationship with the system, with the original code of the system. When a human being prays, some people believe the prophets just brought, you know, they believe revelation was a book. Revelation was a key to a door beyond the sin that entices us to hear. You see, it's a planet created by a creator. It's people created by a creator. It is a self seeing it all created by a creator. If I consider that I am not the owner of myself, which I did, that's what religion is. Religion is like if your ego was a bicycle. God is faster than light. This is the light of God. Because I never look at it. So right now in 2024, the world is like a space getting probably in 4 years, population, population, this you remember, I actually just like you know, so you like like a for quarters and there are murder and murders. I have been at the quarter. I have quoted those people who shouldn't Muslim that as not true. Do you know what it means? That means falling in before it fell and it rebelled. So close to God. You guys left to watch me. You were just told to open this up while you smile is the with humans when I want to in my human these levels you get access to a perfect world. Now some things to explain how I set the effect of myself. You're gonna laugh right now. It's the Lord. Is it a soul that on the world is in our health that is drawn to us beautiful. And those are like Moses in Moses between the coal or the gold. Similarly, this is the path you have, human beings. All the shit you hear, like, excuse my language, all the stuff you hear in motivation, self-help is garbage. And I couldn't say this, right? Until you realize there's a system admin. What does that mean? That means there is a living, intelligent decider. Okay? Let me tell you what I mean by this. I want you, if I ask you right now, who is the most important person in your life? What's the most important thing in your life? People will give worldly answers. Myself, my lover, my children. It's literally like realizing that I know, like, it's a little bit tiresome and it's difficult to hear, but pretty much all human beings are self-obsessed. At some point they become others obsessed. Okay, or think of it this way: the toddler is self-obsessed. Then the toddler becomes other obsessed. Oh my God, is that a toy? Is that another person? What is that? Da da da. Right? And then eventually the person comes back to themselves. Right? Their self is more important. It is very rare to have a privilege to be in a world that is huge. This is the clue, guys. The test of reality is that they've put you into Willy Wonka. They've brought a diabetes kid, right, to like a Willy Wonka factory, and they're like, don't touch anything. You're being tested. And this kid has to truly stand strong in faith. I'll be honest, I have seen different cultures. I have seen how different cultures acknowledge God. I have seen how people speak about the soul. I have, in some sense, done my own private research in this realm so far. But the conclusion is, dear being, it's the self is limited. Others are limited, and the world is limited. What are you gonna do? If you do anything as a self, because the self is limited, everything will be limited. It's kind of like an impossible situation. This is why God is the key to the door of a meaningless world. What a sentence. I'm shaking. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. My beloved species, you're not here to become something because we all exit. You are here to notice something, and it is not yourself, O spiritual people, New Age community. Dear God, like, do you know what I mean? Like, being too spiritual, no offense, guys, I'm sorry to say this, but it's equivalent to like masturbating. It's like touching something too much. But the difference between spirituality and religion is spirituality is the captain of the ship. You are the captain of your soul. In the earlier talks, I would be like, you are the pilot of your soul. Little did I know that there is a greater pilot, that the planes of existence that I think I have power in are psychological simulations. Sorry guys, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I think it's because I haven't slept for 24 hours, but I think it could also be that religion is coming into contact with a higher power. Do you know what that means? That means you could be the strongest, wealthiest, most powerful worldly being. Yet you will die. Like all of us. And if for you who are material, who just see the stuff in the room, rather than what's giving it meaning, humanity will succeed when you are willing to save your enemies, to save that which wants to destroy you. It doesn't mean like April. In your child in 20, in your 30s, not your 30s, your 40s, in your 50s, 60s, 70s, in your 80s, not in your 80s, your 90s, if not in your 90s, in your 100s, in your 100s, maybe during that day, sorry, birthday, no, you sorry, the something is an MU, or an MPO, and everything is a body because you are not on one chart. That's also salvation. But I can observe everything scripted by the big. Days and this. And I in third world they don't if he billion minds or a force down for the control. I want to get bored. I want to get bored bad things. I want to get bored choosing. I want to when you see a building rectangular square, I want to see table chair are not science. I want to overcome of to carry. I want to, in some sense, whenever we don't have, like I want you to get angry in some sense when you see the absence of the greatness of your speech. Okay, let me stabilize here. All right. Considerations, considerations, considerations. You find yourself in a place. You think it's a place. You think there is physicality. You think there is form. You are surrounded by mysteries, yet the candle has been lit in the dark room, in the darkness of the cosmos. Our voices enter each other's ears, not one, in some sense with the mysterious awe of where did they ever go. Dear humanity, It's not going to be surprising in a period of probably good like less than 100 years that humanity is going to have prototypes of surveillance states. These surveillance states are, you see, there's everything has, let's say, if light is hitting it, has a shadow, but it means it also has a bright side. So reality is divided between shadow and light, right? So you can say in some sense, like think of it this way, that heaven, God is the light, source of the light. Heaven is like, the bright side, and earth is like the object, and then the shadow that the light of God creates to the world is like, imagine hell. And what is the whole point? What is hell for an entity in a world with infinite vastness? It is an inability to comprehend. In modern times, it's not that you become blind by your eyes not seeing. Your blindness is in the absence of the effort to understand, and in the effort to understand comes the realization that life has a value more than a calculated form. So in some sense, the reverence and respect for reality shifts. For example, why is it that every older generation sees the newer generation and they're like, the newer generations are messed up? I'm seeing it too. It's hilarious. It's part of like growing up. In some sense, you get to see, the mistakes of the past, and in some, do you know what I'm saying? In the future. Like, isn't it weird to you guys that we have the most egotistical people acting alpha? Okay, this is a term nowadays everywhere, right? Acting alpha, thinking they are like kings of mankind, yet they don't see mankind. Do you know what would happen in this world? Let me tell you how a society that has a class system resolves itself. Let me tell you how Karl Marx could have not seen the horror he saw. You see, an idea can develop that civilization is divided in classes because there is limited resources and there is mismanagement of resource. So imagine like, pretty much I see it like this. When I think about trillionaires and billionaires, I just think of them as people who as prospectors who found the mountain quicker. Found the gold mine, found the mine quicker. Okay, but let me tell you, this is what I was envisioning. I was envisioning the elite class suddenly looks at the political class and it's like, what the fuck? What's the point of living in a world that's updating slowly? And imagine all the richest, most powerful people on the planet just one morning tuned into a lecture, some random guy's podcast. And that random guy said to them, if you take, you are vilified. If you give, what do you call it? You're superheroized. Superherofied, you know? Pretty much I'm saying that the let me tell you what it is. I gave in one of the lectures a solution to the financial crisis. But I shouldn't talk about it here. Anyways, that's a lecture people can look up. Anyways. Does a part of the world think it's in a world? That's a whole lecture on itself. But the idea is yes, and that's ignorance. But then the second part comes: does the awareness to the world? What did I say? Does the or is the awareness to the world not in the world? So if you think you're part of the world, you shouldn't be able to notice the world, I think. Right? What do I mean by this? I mean, it's too outside of it. It's too outside of it. We all bring the fact that we think what an unknown witness of which thought to act on. So often, right? So is the awareness to the world, not in the world, the idea of person thoughts the world, but what world is the world? Uh, every time you ChatGPT or so this explain me what all systems system exist and arrangement must consist of elements that interact to function achieve a result. Here the components is the part component that interact like chemicals, human parts like organisms, actions, abstractions, yes, like software, or human usage system, relationship and different codes written. And we have interconnection, the components be interconnected in some manner. So first thing that is components. Second is interconnections. The components interconnect some these can be visible for correlation. It's a boundary. This is a boundary purpose or function. This is some purpose function. These are my functions and collection elements of my tools. System functions tangible, like transportation in the case of a vehicle, or abstract, like data processing in the case of a computer system. So, what does this imply, guys? This is saying it has to be, in some sense, if it's just elements. The atheists are making us just see elements, okay? But in some sense, theism is a system with a outline. So see that the issue is the scientific method. It cannot be a system in the sense. Okay, it can have a it can be in a system in the sense that its purpose is to constantly verify truth. But because it's verifying truth based on its past, if the truth is beyond that dimension's past, done. You can't figure it out. inputs and outputs. Systems receive inputs from their environment, process these inputs, and produce outputs. The nature of these inputs and outputs can vary widely depending on the type of system. 7. Feedback mechanisms. Many systems have feedback mechanisms that help to regulate their behavior. Feedback can modify the functioning of the system based on its output or the conditions within its environment. These components work together to enable the system to function effectively and achieve its intended results. Now, if I ask you, let's say if we try to fathom the most advanced system, the most advanced system would have one of these things not in this world. So it could be that the system would have elements or components that are not from the system. You know? So I'm telling you, the world is not behaving like how we can understand it. I think the God is here to show us how to live in the world. I have a theory that, like, just try to imagine you, like some higher power, not some, but let's say a higher power, saw a species on a planet. How would it help it? Now, Star Trek has this thing where it says the Prime Directive. I think something like that. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it's like you can't pretty much invade a species that's like childlike, in the child's phase. But I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. There is so many variations of moments of reality happening that to try to calculate them all is impossible. So it's self-entertainment. Thinking is self-entertainment. Why? Because if we choose to see this as an empty room, in this empty room, uh, creatures freaked out and started making noise, and through patterns of behavior, for the first time started creating subjective behaviorology. And thinking is actually subjective behaviorism. It's how you behave as a subject. But whose subject are you? And we say free will, we are our own subject, but you did not create the world. You didn't even create yourself. You're just maintaining yourself. Like, in some sense, you're managing, like, the free will is like equivalent. Like, see, I have free will to drive my vehicle, but I don't have to change the roads and, the regulations. If I wanted to change the laws, I would have to get into politics and then go and, pass a bill or something. Oh, I'm going to ask ChatGPT something interesting here. Actually, let's try this out. If in a secular society, people acknowledged a system admin like how religious people acknowledge God, what sort of secular interactions can there be with the system admin that is beyond the world of form? ChatGPT given an answer. What the f? Oh my god, check this out. ChatGPT just blew my mind. In a secular society where a system administrator or a sysadmin is acknowledged similarly to a religious figure, interactions with the sysadmin could take on a symbolic or metaphorical significance that transcends practical day-to-day technical management. Here are some ways this could manifest. 1. Symbol of order and control. The sysadmin could be seen as a keeper of order within the digital realm, ensuring that systems run smoothly and efficiently. In the sysadmin stability and order. One is my view dating context. God, this is often more I issues related to technology and trust. They all ethical with small actions. Technology. For example, a ocean system. This may be just the entity could serve and keep out the wall still send to network its personal professional life in the personal manager with the social significance. The point towards I have progress is still very beyond what they know. Who is closer to truth in this Mr. Within? See it at least. Dear humanity, we have a responsibility to anything that exists to solve this solvable so we get as far closest to it. You know, right happening to the youth of the today, they're protesting, trying to suffocate each other. 80% knowledge this, and if you are, and if you are to to first to first like let me this is months. It's a performance. These talks, generation, all the people come in, like give you a sense of like 4.5 billion years ago. Try to envision you can notice sense, and we see the atmosphere. We see our lives. Yet we are you. Somebody who would come and say, I tried Buddhism. Because you don't believe in God if you are God now. It doesn't make sense. You cannot be equal to the ultimate here. Doesn't make sense. It's like somebody outside of a boat being like, I'm a captain of the ship, bro. Like you're not even on the ship. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I am not a sinless person. My relationship with the system admin is one where I noticed how inferior I am. And if you choose to be an honest soul, you're going to realize you didn't create this world. You didn't create anything here. So how can you own? How can you own something that you don't know? If we don't know who we are, how are we being ourselves every day? It's simulated, right? Life is beautiful. Oh, God, let's own it. People up with other people, but they realize it's the seed whole this test. You know, it's 2024. We have evolved into like next level role. Right? People understand everything is right now to worry what's gonna happen with the future. What the one thing that is evolving is what it is. If you don't consider God, you're like not understanding events, not the digital world. You know, I mean, there's a difference between those people who are in the example and those people who are outside the machines and see more people in sometimes I think the issue with religion is it's the issue of man and anger of man. I think people have been given inferiority complex and management of wisdom, you know, inferiority complex is deep and perfect and will be disconnected and will automatically be in loss of realization. I'll tell you, go future generation, go this statement, and if you guys creating dates, you hear these talks, and I see down cat where you are, uh, the whole world is in the future, you'll be like we're going. The world is natural, but beyond natural, we have divine. The divine is like the higher up you go, the more you're being moved. The lower you are, the more you're a fucking savage animal, like a bouncy ball in a room. I am telling you. We're all in this once. So, I think the notion is that if human beings want to advance civilization, sorry guys, my phone's tripping. Hold on. Okay. To be honest, I wanted to put it on silent. Hang on. Okay. One of the most beautiful things I've heard about the Creator is that if man wants to give himself something, it is limited to imaginable imperfection. But when God gives something to man, when something arrives through divine decree, God is an incredible original intelligence of this world. If you are a being that you feel you're not living your own life, or you're not like as if you feel like you should be living another life, I will tell you that yourself, people, and the world are in the presence of the absolute. Why is God such a beautiful idea? Because God cannot make mistakes. It's the notion of an unmistaken intelligence. Like imperfect beings, their idealization was perfection, but then they're like, if there's a conditional perfection, then there must be an unconditional perfection. God is the unconditional perfection. It's an access. By acknowledging God sincerely and realizing that, like, if aliens landed down and they were peaceful people, would be like, yo man, let's take the kids to see the aliens. Right? It'd be like some that kind of attitude. But let me tell you, if there was something beyond form that you could contact, it doesn't mean you're worthy to, in some sense, get a respond back, but it means you are in the proximity of, the majesty of, the uncaused caused causation. Therefore, the destiny of the effect is uncaused, because it came from God and we return to God. The system admin can delete the server. End of days. The system admin can, in some sense, tell the whole system, you're being tested. Do you go to the moderator or do you go to the system admin? That means I send my salutations to all moderators decreed by God, but God is here, the original. That means we don't want a weak simulation, we want original. So from me, I was young man, is important to think, see the point of not the point is not lying to walls so I just want to feel like this whole time is the one only original power. Now, someone wanted that is now you're pleased and acknowledge this is your world. Sure, yeah, on earth isn't my world. You know, I feel strange. We have a I did that. I did that. I was like that. You know, see the future generation, the children, the educational system in the future, it's going to be like that. But gonna come there, so not for explorers. Just to be some explorer. When you walk in the future, scholar in university, what something exploration. Explore you understand? You bring back on that day we see something big. See this is the program. Then okay, this is what you have to be. This is how I put on. And this is what I do together. Thank you for listening. To the um, and And if you feel low energy, uh, like or what something like that, like let's say it's the person's my own power. Other power could there be? And once you put down the crown you wear in the simulation, you're going to realize that which is, I don't know how to tell you, but there are those who wear crowns in the world, and there is that which wears the world as a crown. What I mean by this is the system admin is not just administering this system. You know, for a Muslim, there are many worlds. God created the world, but within that world, there are many worlds. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. That means I realize if the attention of the human being goes to the system admin, they become energized by a pure original energy rather than if it comes to some sort of indirect terminal, like if it's through a member or a moderator. So as a member, I'm saying for a decade, I didn't I didn't realize, but I was working with the moderators of this reality, and there was something missing, something still impure about the moment. And when I realized that there is no need for a moderator, it's like this whole time you're like arguing with the employees, and you're like, oh my God, there is a manager here. You know, it's like this whole time, you know, the person's like praying to that, trying this, trying that. Yet you have to only go to the one and only. That means this world seems to respond well to singularianism, to be a singularian. Anyways, thank you for listening. I think for a future episode, I'm gonna I'm gonna put a sci-fi chapter of mine, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. We'll see if there's an audience interested in that. Anyways, thank you for listening. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. As simple as that. We are not the main event, yet we have an important role. Thank you for listening.